More than ever, the United States is quick to charge other nations with the abuse of political prisoners, all the while urging the indictment of heads of state for threatening to harm their own people. That was the pretext for the bombing of Libya, that Muammar Gaddafi was threatening his own citizens. Yet the nation with the largest incarceration rate in the world and a justice system that is full of racism claims justice is blind. We'll explore prisoners' rights this week on American Dream. I'm your host, Nisa Islam. I'm in front of the U.S. Department of Justice. The problem is, too many people in America that are incarcerated don't receive the justice they deserve. America has the largest rate of incarceration in the world. I asked Jessalyn McCurdy of the American Civil Liberties Union, why does America incarcerate so many people?
At this point, there have been studies that have been done by the Pew Institute, the Pew Charitable Trust, that say that in this country we incarcerate 1 in every 100 persons in this country. So we have over 2 million people who are incarcerated in prisons and jails around the country, around the United States. And we are by far the largest incarcerator of our own people among the countries around the world. One of the reasons for that is that we over the past 30 years, have focused a lot of our efforts on incarcerating nonviolent offenders, particularly drug offenders. And that many of that types of incarcerations have stemmed from the war on drugs, which Reagan began 40 years ago. We just we just celebrated or acknowledged the anniversary of the 40-year war on drugs. And we see what we've gotten from that war on drugs, and that is a ballooning and alarming over-incarceration of our people. And most of those people the majority of those people are African-American people in this country, or people of color.
Dara Baldwin is a social justice activist that works on behalf of prisoners' rights. I asked her, why does America incarcerate so many people?
Well, about 3 decades ago, America took on the policy of treating crime as something that was horrific, all crimes, and causing it to be something that was cause for punishment rather than rehabilitation or assisting people, especially in the area of drugs. So America took on this policy that we're going to arrest people, and instead of assisting people who really need assistance, either mental health assistance, social service assistance, wraparound assistance, they created punishment, and so they put people in jail. And the number of people who get in trouble for drugs exceed, probably the number of people we have walking the streets, and so therefore our numbers has continuously risen. Also because of the lack of people who have money for public defending. People do not have a lot of money to get attorneys. Actually, in this country, not only do we have more people in prisons, but we have more people in jails. And the difference is people who are in pretrial, meaning you are not convicted of a crime, they can't even get out of jail. They can't afford the bail that's set for them, so they're sitting in prison. There's about 2.7 million people sitting in pretrial who can't even go, they lose their homes because they can't go back to work. Some of them lose their families, their wives leave them, their spouses leave them. Some of them lose their children to foster care. So we always forget about the people who are in jail, but about the same number of people who are in prison are in jail as well.
I'm on my way to interview Eddie Ellis. He committed a crime at the age of 16 and spent 15 years of his life incarcerated. We're going to hear his story, and he's going to answer the question, why are so many people in America incarcerated?
I think it's an industry that makes a lot of money, and it's a lot of people in prison that can be out of prison, for small charges. But unfortunately, it's a money-making industry, and that's basically what it is. I spent 15 years of my life in prison, for something that I did, and I should have been in prison for it. But it's a lot of people in prison that shouldn't be in prison that can be out here contributing to the economy in other ways instead of taking from the economy.
While America claims justice is blind, the truth is only certain people get arrested, convicted, and go to jail. I asked our professionals, who goes to jail?
Unfortunately, most people in this country are innocent of the crimes that they go to jail for. It's the poor people. If you don't have enough money in this country, then you kind of wind up in jail. Socioeconomic. Also, people who aren't from this country. A lot of people who are internationally either traveling here, going to school here, doing whatever in America. And most people, you know, illegal aliens, I hate those words. But people who don't know the system and don't know that something's a crime, they may do something, it becomes a crime, and they wind up in the system. And because they don't have the money or the funds or the resources to get out of prison, they wind up in prison. So who's in prison? Mothers, fathers, people who are clergy people who are just here to do something nice or something for the society, they wind up in prison. That's who's in prison.
Back over 25 years ago, the federal government created a law that would more harshly punish people who dealt crack cocaine versus people who dealt powder cocaine. And so, for example, in the context of crack cocaine, 80% of the people who are in prison for selling crack cocaine are African American people. But what we know is that over 60% of the people who are actually use crack cocaine are white and Latino people in this country. And so you can see how disproportionate the percentages are for people who are selling and people who are using. So what we see in that, and what we also know is most of the time people who use buy from people of their own race or ethnicity. And so there's an imbalance there in terms of who is going to prison for selling crack cocaine and who are the actual people who are using crack cocaine. And so that's an example of the disparity in terms of who goes to prison in the United States and who does not go to prison in the United States, and what they go for, and what system, more importantly, what system they get caught up in.
Who goes to jail? Sometimes some of the right people go to jail, sometimes not. You will see most black people in prison, my opinion. More black people are in prison, but less black people break the law. More white people break the law, but less white people are convicted than black people. For whatever reason, I don't know. Is it racist things racist underlines? Probably so. You know, but it's more black people in prison than anybody. And we are less populated than white people.
I then asked people on the street, who goes to jail?
People of color and poor people.
Even a guy who is gone into DUI, driving under influence, yeah, even he goes to jail.
My opinion, mostly African American people, men.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. That's how the system is made up. That's my opinion.
The most of the black people and the Hispanic there.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's the racial banners, because they always figure that we are the lowest thing that exists out here.
Does America have political prisoners? She says no, but many say yes. In fact, it's estimated that thousands of political prisoners are languishing in jails. What about Mumia Abu-Jamal, whose case has received international attention? Leonard Peltier of the American Indian Movement, the Cuban Five, who are charged with espionage, numerous members of the Black Panther Party. What about the Muslims jailed at Guantanamo Bay? Aren't they political prisoners? The National Conference of Black Lawyers has urged the U.S. to apply international human rights standards to protect and ensure the rights of political prisoners currently incarcerated. Scores have been behind bars for decades. The National Conference of Black Lawyers has pressed for their release since many were wrongfully imprisoned by the FBI's counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO. It sought to neutralize and destroy radical political activists and their organizations. I asked our experts to discuss the political issues people are incarcerated for today.
I'm pretty sure they are political prisoners in jail, because people believe that they're fighting for their cause, and whatever their cause may be, that's something personal to them. You have some people that feel that they should be in there fighting for their race. Some people feel they should be fighting for their religion. Some people feel they should be fighting for their neighborhoods, their communities, to keep their community up. You know, you have like some old Black Panther Party people that's in prison, you know, that feel that they was fighting to uphold their community and their people.
Obviously, one of the examples of a former political prisoner is Geronimo Pratt, who recently has passed away. And while America does deny having political prisoners, there obviously have been over history political prisoners that have been involved in the incarceration in the criminal justice system in the United States.
America does have political prisoners, especially, unfortunately, after 9/11. We have a lot of political prisoners, mostly, quote-unquote, in for terrorism, which they may not have done at all, may not be terrorism, or in because, again, they believe their culture and what's going on. They have the right to do the things that they want to do in this country, and they consider, quote-unquote, political prisoners. So you have men and women who are in prisons. Some of them we know where they are, and some of them we don't know where they are. Guantanamo Bay is still open, although President Obama promised to close it. So you have people who are there. Again, we have a lot of public defenders and attorneys who are trying to fight for these people's rights, but can't even find them. So we're not quite sure the number, but there are political prisoners in this country. From what I've heard in the work that I do, again, quote-unquote terrorism, or looking at if they're going to do something on a terrorist, quote-unquote, genre in that field. They're also being put in prison for like downgrading America, talking about America's problems, which a lot of people don't like. That we do have some people who have written things that, quote unquote, they shouldn't have written or was against what, quote unquote, America wanted, and they've been targeted to be put into prison. We have a lot of political prisoners in there. Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! Talks a lot about that. A lot of leftist political organizations in this country are following those people, and those people who follow that news know who those people are.
Imagine spending 23 hours of your day in a cell and only being able to come out for 1 hour sometimes. That's how America incarcerates people in her supermax prisons. For 6 years, Mr. Ellis was confined in one. He explains what it's like.
I actually spent 6 years in the ADX supermax prison, which is the highest level maximum prison in the United States. Cruel and unusual punishment, I would think so. Because you deal with a lot of mental